So, you've probably heard all these buzzwords flying around, right? Agentic workflows, AI agents, agentic AI. And let's be real, trying to figure out what they mean can be confusing. Explanations are either super technical or way too simple. So today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. I'm going to break down what an AI agent actually is and what makes it so different from the AI tools you're probably already using.
Right, so what is all this buzz about? What does it actually mean for you? Look, if you're someone who uses tools like ChatGPT, but you're not, a coder or a deep tech expert, this explainer is made just for you. We're going to give you exactly what you need to know to understand this huge shift that's happening in AI. And trust me, it's going to affect all of us.
And to make it super easy to follow, we're going to use a simple 1-2-3 learning path. We're going to start with what you already know, things like large language models. Then we'll build on that to understand AI workflows, and then we'll take the big leap forward into AI agents.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start with the basics, then get into workflows, then agents, and finally, we'll talk about the big picture, how AI is changing from just a tool into a teammate.
All right, let's dive right in with Level 1, the foundation. This is the stuff you're probably pretty familiar with already. We're talking about large language models, or LLMs.
Yeah, you know these guys. I'm talking about ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. They're all apps built on top of LLMs. It's pretty straightforward, right? You give it a prompt, it gives you back an answer. You ask it to write an email, and poof, there's your email. It's really, really good at generating text.
But here's the catch. What happens if I go to ChatGPT and ask, hey, when's my next coffee meeting? It's going to say, I have no idea, right? Why? Because it can't see my calendar. And that little example actually shows the two big limitations of these standard LLMs. First, their knowledge is totally walled off. They can't access your personal info, your company's data, nothing. And second, they're passive. They literally just sit there and wait for you to give them a command.
Okay, so how do we get around those limits? Well, that brings us to level 2, adding some rules. This is where we get into something called an AI workflow.
So what's an AI workflow? Think of it like a recipe. It's just a set of instructions, a predefined path, that a human, that's you, creates for the LLM to follow. So instead of just one prompt and one answer, you're telling it, okay, when this thing happens, I want you to do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. You are still the one calling the shots. You're defining all the logic.
Let me give you a real-world example to make this stick. You could use a tool, say something like make.com, to set up an automation. So step 1, it automatically pulls links to news articles from a Google Sheet you've got. Then, step 2, it shoots those articles over to an AI, maybe Perplexity, to summarize them. And for the grand finale, step 3, it takes those summaries and hands them off to another AI, like Claude, and tells it to draft some social media posts for you. Pretty cool, right?
But, and this is the really important part, a human is still the one in the driver's seat. You're the one making all the key decisions. You set that fixed path. So let's say that social media post it created isn't quite funny enough. What do? Well, you have to go back in, find that step, and tweak the prompt for Claude yourself. All the trial and error, all the iteration, that's on you.
Now, quick pro tip. You might hear this really fancy-sounding term thrown around, RAG. It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Don't let the name scare you. All it means is giving the AI the ability to look stuff up from somewhere else before it gives you an answer. So it could look up your calendar, or check the weather, or search your company's internal documents. It's really just a specific, powerful type of AI workflow.
Okay, and now we arrive at level 3. This is the giant leap forward. We're talking about autonomous AI agents. And believe me, this is where things get really exciting.
And this brings us to what is probably the single most important sentence in this entire explainer. The one massive change that turns a workflow into an agent is when you take the human decision maker out of the loop and you replace them with the LLM itself.
Let's break that down because it's a huge deal. In an AI workflow, remember, a human sets a very specific fixed path for the AI to follow. But with an AI agent, you don't give it a path, you just give it a goal, and the LLM itself figures out the best way to get there.
It's kind of like the difference between giving someone detailed turn-by-turn driving directions versus just hopping in a cab and saying, "Get me to the airport and find the fastest route." See the difference? One is a set of instructions, the other is a goal.
Now, this ability for an agent to think for itself is often built around a framework called REACT. And again, it sounds complex, but it's actually pretty simple. The RE stands for reason. The agent has to think about the goal and make a plan. The ACT stands for, well, act. It has to then use its tools to carry out that plan. Reason, then act. That's REACT for you.
So this whole self-directing ability gives an agent 3 really important traits. First, it's goal-oriented. You don't micromanage it with a path. Second, it can reason and act, which means it can pick its own tools for the job. And third, this is a big one, it can iterate. Remember how you had to go back and fix the prompt for that social media post? An agent does that itself. It can look at its own work, say, that's not quite right, and then try again and again completely on its own until it achieves the goal you gave.
Okay, so let's zoom out and put it all together. We're going to look at the big picture and see this whole evolution from a simple tool to what could be a true teammate.
So let's recap this whole journey. At level 1, the simple LLM, who's the decision maker? The human. You give a prompt, it gives an output. At level 2, the AI workflow, who's the decision maker? It's still the human. You're just defining a more complex preset path for it to follow. But then we get to level 3, the agent. And this is where the big switch happens. The decision maker is now the LLM itself. You give it the destination, the goal, and it figures out the entire journey, the reasoning, the actions, the iterations. That is the fundamental shift we've been talking about.
You know, this shift from a workflow to an agent, it's not just a small step, it's profound. We're literally going from using AI as a passive tool that waits for our commands to potentially collaborating with it as an autonomous teammate. So, I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Once you have a teammate that can reason, act, and learn all on its own, what's the very first task you're going to give it?